Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 138 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, we have a special guest today for OU Texas Week. Caleb King Kelly, an Oklahoma Sooner linebacker. He was on the roster from 2016 to 2021. He has what will likely be an unbreakable record as a member of Oklahoma's team with a 6-1 record against the University of Texas. More importantly, Kevin, with 7 minutes and 17 seconds left in the 2021 edition of the Red River Shootout, this man stripped Xavier Worthy on a kickoff return to set up Kennedy Brooks for a touchdown and OU's first lead of the game in what is still my all-time favorite sporting event. Coincidentally, Kevin, it gives you PTSD and you've had to see your therapist multiple times for this. Caleb is now a director for OU Soul Mission. He is a regular on KREF Sports. He is a OU Texas merch influencer. He is motivated by three things, Kevin. His love of God, his love for his wife, and his hatred for the University of Texas. Let's start there, Caleb. Where does the hatred come from?
Well, I grew up in California. And Xavier Worthy actually is from my hometown as well. He's from Fresno. I'm from Fresno. We didn't play against each other in high school. I'm much older. But, there wasn't a big knowledge of OU Texas and the rivalry and all those things growing up in California. But as soon as I came out here, I understood it that first game. I said, so like half the stadiums, like totally crimson, the other stadiums, like ugly burnt orange. And they were like, yeah, exactly like that. And I said, okay. And so I was like, that sounds really cool, but I want to see it in person. So I go freshman year. And you know why the hatred is there for me?
This is what we're at. This is what we're trying to figure out right here. Let's dive deep. It's okay. It's a safe space. It's a safe space. Go ahead.
Entitlement. That's the biggest thing with Texas fans that I've seen. Now, in the last 24 years, since 2000, OU has won 17 out of 24. I mean, it's not like it's been real close in the running. And every single year, somehow Texas is the favorite. Even if we're ranked higher than them or we got blatantly better team, Texas is the favorite. And the fans are going to act like their stuff don't stink for the entire week, month, year leading up until they play us again. Like they didn't just lose the year before. I mean, it's just I hate the Texas fan base and the people there because entitlement is not good in life. It's really like that's a character trait that
it's a flaw. It's a flaw.
I'm a very faith-based man, like you said, and I believe you reap what you sow, and those that humble themselves will be exalted, but those that exalt themselves will be humbled. And time again, I see the Texas fan base talking about we're back and we're this, we're that over and over and over again. And time again, I see OU show up because we're that blue collar university that doesn't have all the flash, doesn't have all that. We got all the history. We got more wins and all this, since maybe not all time, but since it really mattered in the recent, developments of football. And the reality is, I just can't respect somebody that can't back up the talk.
Wow.
I can't respect somebody that can't back up the talk. I mean, that's a biblical thing there. Like, you reap what you sow. And so
Caleb just says he has absolutely no respect for you, Kevin. That's what I just heard from that statement.
Kevin seems cool, but I mean, he got an ugly shirt on.
Hey, you're on mute, Kevin. You're on mute. I didn't mute you. You're on mute because you just have.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I still respect you, though, Caleb Kelly. I've seen the work you put in. I remember watching you commit, right? And you announced University of Oklahoma, stood up and threw those horns down. And I'm like, oh, he's already one of them. He's not just going to OU. He's already a Sooner. Like, this dude gets what it's all about. So from that moment on, I'm like, yeah, this dude's going to be a problem.
And I'll tell you the reason why right now there's so much hate for me is because the head coach didn't respect me when I was a recruit. And so Steve Sarkisian is a very successful coach, been all over Alabama's and all over the place, has had a lot of success. But when he was head coach at the University of Southern California, I was 5-star recruit Caleb Kelly back then. That was all about pride, and I hadn't learned about all that and gone through all that and that development as a human and growing and learning about all those things. And I was very, cocky football player. Well, he humbled me because when I went up to shake his hand, I'm a 5-star. USC's offered me. I'm so excited because I got the same uniforms at my high school that USC has, and it's right down the street. And Reggie Bush there, and all those things. I go up to shake his hand. He doesn't even take his glasses off. Doesn't look towards me, just gives me a limp fish handshake.
Wow.
Just like, whatever. I'm doing whatever, man.
That's not surprising. That's not surprising. He looks like a limp handshake kind of guy, Kevin. I think you'd agree with that, right?
No.
That he looks like the kind of dude that just barely grabs your hand.
No.
A little effeminate. There's a reason his wife left him, and it's probably the handshake, Kevin. That's all.
It could be alcohol because that's.
I'm not getting involved in the personal life, people's personal life. I'm not even going there. Not even with y'all's coaches. I'm not going there. I gotta love it. That's a crazy story, though. And I have a question. With your recruit being a guy who's a 5-star, you could have called any coach in the country. You could have called, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Dabo Swinney. Say, hey, I want to come there. They would have been like, great. So what made you narrow your choices down? I believe it was Notre Dame and University of Oklahoma. What made you narrow it down to those two? What made you ultimately choose the University of Oklahoma?
Yeah, and I'll say it was Charlie Strong at Texas too while I was there, and so I think he's a great person, but did not have a great record. And so
no, not at all. No, I don't blame you for not considering going to Texas during that time.
Hey,
I'm not even
going to Texas.
No, yeah, I got you on that for sure.
But for me, Oklahoma was my first offer, and how I grew up back home. We have there's all the different things with redlining and segregation and all those things back in history. And so Fresno in California, it's a red line state as well. And so in my city, there's different sections. So there's the north side, the west side, east side, south side of Fresno. And so north side, it was where predominantly the white people went. I'm half black and I'm half white myself. And so I went to school on the north side because, obviously it's not like that completely 100% now today. It's 2024. But back when I was there, it had developed from that. So that's still the nicer side of town is the north side. The west side is more hood, ghetto, whatever term you want to deem it as. Well, that's where I did 7-on-7, which is like travel football. And so for me, I was the guy that kind of bridged the gap between people. I was half black, half white. I really felt like I belonged. There's a lot of times where people that are mixed, they don't feel like they belong in either. I was a guy that felt like I belonged in both. And so I bridged that gap often. I'd bring people from the north side to the west side to the north side, have them on the same travel 7-on-7 team, would invite my friends, would hang out with multiple people. And I really was that bridge back home in California. And so Notre Dame, I really liked the history, the culture. I really liked the coaches there. I mean, at that point, I'm Caleb Kelly. And so then there's Brian Kelly. I'm like, that's a cool little nudge and different things. And so it just was a fun place and just had so much history. I mean, Notre Dame's a really cool school to see and go and look at all of the grotto and all the different things that are there. It's just so cool to see. And so I really liked that atmosphere. But the difference between them was, the kids at Notre Dame were more of those cookie cutter kids, the kids that were kind of like me. I mean, I had good grades. I was good at football. I handled all my business, was never in trouble. Notre Dame had more the kids that were like that. Oklahoma had a mix. They had kids that came from a lot of money that were real successful parents, had parents that were real successful, and kids that were in gangs and getting out of that life to come to Oklahoma and have a different life. And so it was really similar because, I mean, my 7-on-7 teammates, half of them were Bloods, half of them were Crips. And then there was me, little old Caleb, just like, I don't do none of that, man. That's not the life I'm in. And they're like, we don't want you in that life. You got too much going for you. And so that really resonated with me because I was like, man, I feel like I could do the same thing I did in high school and college. I could bridge the gap. And so, I mean, now this is my 9th season at the University of Oklahoma. I mean, I love it. I love all the people here. The people are the biggest thing that I see in Norman and Oklahoma in general. Remember the first time I'm driving, I saved up, bought a car my freshman year because you can't have it on campus the first semester and things. And so I saved up and bought it the second semester going into my sophomore year. And first time I get on the highway, people just let me in. And I was like, yeah, I'm not in California anymore. Like this is crazy. And small things like that. But man, the biggest thing I wanted to do was be that bridge. And so really honored and really blessed, man, that I got to do the Unity jerseys with a couple of my best friends. I'm going to see one this weekend. He lives in Dallas, and Pat Fields. We presented the Unity jerseys. The Prentice got Unity jerseys to the president, about 4 or 5 DPs. And really it was during the time of Black Lives Matter and all the different, organizations that were really divisive and really just didn't stand for things that University of Oklahoma stood for necessarily. And it was all about, we have a brand. You look at the brand of Oklahoma and you recognize it right away. You already know what it is. We have our own platform. So as people that come from all around the country, I mean, we got tennis girls from Europe, we got golfers from Europe, we got guys that play on golf from Canada and all over the place. And we all come together and have one unified front that is the University of Oklahoma Sooners. And we all are here to support each other, help each other. And so it really was that big bridge the gap moment, that legacy moment to where whenever I'm done, whenever I leave, if I ever leave OU, which I don't plan on anytime soon or anything, and I love Oklahoma. I mean, I want to raise my kids here. And so I got one, he's 6. So he left him out and his name's Swade. I got to give a shout out to my guy. I love him so much. And so I got to put that in there real quick. But man, it was all about unity and it was all about bringing people together. And then we got to honor the first African-American scholarship football athlete in Prentice Gott, who surgeons paid his tuition and paid for him to play at the University of Oklahoma. And there's just so many cool things to go with it that I felt like, man, I could come to Oklahoma over Notre Dame and really have that impact. I could be somebody that could stand out, that could bridge that gap. And then finally, in the end, the last thing that I did to make that decision is I picked out of a hat. And so, I mean, I got all the way there and I was half OU, half Notre Dame. I was so torn. I took a piece of paper, tore it in half, and I tightened them up. I balled them up. And I said, I did the Notre Dame one tighter, but then I put them on the table, went and got a couple hats. And I said, all right, Mom, I'm going to go to the room. You place the balls of paper under the hat, whichever one I get, that's where I'm going. And then sure enough, I lift up the hat and I look at it and the ball's super tight. But little did I know, my mom went behind me and tightened the OU one up as well. And so they looked the same. And so then I pick up the ball and I'm like, oh, my heart drops. Like, I think I'm going to Notre Dame. And I open it up and it's OU. And I just felt such a sigh of relief. And I'm taking pictures, and selfies were big back then with a piece of paper. And so that was how I came to OU, though. That's a long story to get all of it in there, but that's really how I got here.
Caleb, I love that. I didn't know this was going to go this direction, but I love that. And now you got to play for Bob Stoops for 1 year, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think back to that, the Black Lives Matter movement and kind of that time frame. It's interesting when you think about Prentice Gott and even Bob Stoops, and you talk about the makeup of the team, the diverse makeup of the team. That's not the first thing that comes to people's minds when they think of the state of Oklahoma, right? Yeah. It's not typically the most diverse state in terms of like perception. Mm-hmm. However, the University of Oklahoma, I feel like, has always been on the forefront, at least for a Southern school, with Prentice Gott being in the 50s and then all the way up to modern times. Coach Stoops was actually pretty forward thinking, and I thought I remember the time you guys called practice, joined arms. Were you on that team? Was that your team? Was that a year before?
That was the year before. Yeah, that was Ty Darlington, Eric Stryker, Zach Sanchez.
That's right, Stryker. Okay, but I'm just saying that was I look back at that with some pride at the way Bob Stoops and the university handled that, because there was a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah,
and you were looking for some leadership there. And now that I think about that and you say that, is it that kind of leadership that kind of endeared you to Bob Stoops a little bit?
Yeah, and the faith thing is big in the Bible Belt of Oklahoma. I'm sure and I know for a fact it's big in Texas as well. But in Oklahoma, it just was something that really stuck out to me. I mean, there's not a week that goes by I don't have a random conversation with somebody about faith, whether it's a player, whether it's somebody I just bump into at the coffee shop or something. And that helps with leadership when you love your brother as you love yourself, you love your neighbor as you love yourself is a big principle in faith and one of the greatest commandments. And so the reality is when you have bad things happen, which it's inevitable, bad things are going to happen, what do you rely on in those moments to lead people, to bring people back together? And University of Oklahoma, and specifically all those guys I named, Eric Stryker, Trevor Knight, Ty Darlington, and Zach Sanchez, I mean, they were very outspoken. They canceled practice when the SAE event happened, and there's some racist songs being sung and things. And University of Oklahoma hasn't even brought that fraternity back. And there's been pushes from former members that are like, man, this is our fraternity. We don't have that positive look. And there's all kinds of things. But Oklahoma is just such a prideful place in the fact that they care about people. And they want people to really feel valued and cared about. And so I think it's very unique to a lot of places because it's still got that small town feel in Norman, Oklahoma, but it is a forerunner and forefront university and making decisions athletically and doing things like SEC, same with Texas, and doing things that make such big improvements to the game and to sports and to student athletes in general. It's super impressive, and it just checks all the boxes for if you're looking to be somebody that stands out but also can fit in, if that makes sense, in a very unique way. And so that's what I love so much about Oklahoma.
Well, it sounds like it was a great fit for you, and it sounds like you definitely made Oklahoma better, with your presence. So I want to ask you about your faith. You suffered some injuries throughout your career.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like you really relied on your faith to give you the strength to bounce back, to keep pushing through those injuries.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had 5 surgeries in 4 years. I mean, I had a hernia surgery in my stomach. I had a shoulder surgery within a month of each other because I already needed the shoulder surgery. So I was like, might as well just knock out this hernia I've had for a while too. And then I had 3 ACLs 3 years in a row, my senior year, my redshirt senior year, and my COVID senior year. So starting my true freshman, true sophomore, true junior year, I won the butt kiss in high school, being top linebacker in the country. I wanted to be one of the first ones to get it in high school and college and the NFL. Eric Kendricks is from Fresno, California, plays on the Dallas Cowboys now, had played on the Vikings, had played on the Rams prior. And he's from my hometown. And he's somebody that won it in college and won it in the NFL. And it was just like, man, I want to get it because I started early in high school. And so now I get to be one of the first ones. And so I came back and had that goal and then tear your ACL. And I'm a big advocate for mental health, for therapy. I go to therapy. I had therapy yesterday. And so, I mean, I go every other week. I got a set date. I don't let anything come between that. And I really, really care about it. But I really have had the experiences to have credibility when I talk to my players and things because of the injury. And you talk about faith. I mean, I go to biblical counseling, biblical therapy when I do it as well, because I think everything in life, and this is a wholehearted belief, everything in life turns back to the Bible, turns back to the Lord. He's guiding everything. And, it says Proverbs, I think it's 16:23 or something like that, 16:18 maybe, that says, man plans their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. And there's so many times where we as humans, we make decisions, goals, plans, going to the NFL, going to be on ESPN, going to do all these things. Like those things that I made that plan when I was 7 years old. I said, I want to be a pastor. I want to be in the NFL. I want to be on ESPN. Like that's what I said at 7 years old. Those are the things I said. And, if you throw in ministry in there, God might take that thing and run with it. So you got to be careful, because I was real close to getting to the NFL and I was supposed to make it, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. And then ESPN actually had offered me. I went out there and did a tryout. They offered me, but I had just taken the Soul Mission job, which is really, to me, the ministry that I get to do and pouring into these guys. But man, when I was going through all those injuries, and I mean, to get back to your question, I mean, there were times where I was so real with God. And I think that there's so many times that people are too afraid to be real with God. Like after the second time I tore my ACL, I was in the locker room by myself on the ground bawling and said, yo, God, I love you, but what the F? Like, you know, and it was like, I trust you and I don't know what your plan is going to be for me, but I submit to it because obviously you don't want me to do this. And so there's just so many things. And I came back time and time again. But the reality was for me, I knew that, five-star Caleb Kelly's hurt. People love to see you down. And that's just human nature. That's the flesh that we have as humans. We're sinful by nature. We love to hate on people and see people when they're at their low moments. But for me, when I knew and God gave me the ability to see that so many people were going to pay attention to me at that point, after even more than when I was starting as a true freshman, true sophomore, true junior. So do I get to be the example or do I get to sulk in this? And so I had the biggest goal to glorify God even in my down times, even in my sadness. And when I was more focused on glorifying him than worrying about how much the pain is or how sad I am I'm not playing and all those things, man, it wasn't fake for me to go out there and smile. It wasn't fake for me to be out there and cheer on my brothers and root for them and hope they have success. And that was huge for me because, man, when you're sitting there and you're sulking, you're worried about woe is me, you can get really stuck in that ditch there and kind of have that stronghold on you. But when you're still able to see, yeah, I can't run today. And, you know, that's a sad thing to say, like I can't run, but I got breath in my lungs that I don't even deserve. And the sun came up today and look at my boys, he's balling and I can go help him and I can correct him on a couple things and help him even more. And then the team's doing better. And it was just like, if I worry less about me, more about God and more about other people, and that's what got me through it. And I think that's really what a lot of faith is, you're called to do, is to go be that light and go pour into others.
That's an incredible perspective. Incredible.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, I agree with you. Sports fans, American sports fans, I think we love the fall as much as we love the rise, right? The five-star falls. We've seen it in Oklahoma. We're experiencing a little bit of that right now with Jackson Arnold. Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, have you had any interaction with Jackson that you would want to share about how you have had to recover? Is there anything like that? Because it seems real similar to me, right? 5-star, big name, and some struggles this year. Not all self-inflicted. I mean, with the injuries he's had, all of this stuff. At the same time, it's real. Those struggles are real. They haven't gone anywhere. Thoughts on that and any conversations you've had that you'd like to share?
Yeah, and I can definitely relate, like you're saying, to Jackson. I think that he's going through it right now, though. I think that he's, it is so disappointing. And even though you try your best to root on your teammates and do all those things that I just said and worry about, there are moments when you fall short. And, all of us as believers and things and humans, we always will have those moments that we fall short. And it's really sad. I mean, you have the opportunity right there and you let it go, and you're disappointed. And the biggest thing that athletes have, and fans, I think sometimes even struggle accepting this or believing this, is that players care more about their own success than the fans care about their success and the team's success. I mean, they're putting everything into it. And sometimes fans don't get the opportunity to see all the work that goes in. I mean, Jackson's the guy that when he was facing injury prior in summertime or whatever time it was, I mean, he was crying because he just wanted to be there with his brothers working and getting better and do the workouts. And he literally shed tears because he just wanted to be there with his guys. And he just felt so disappointed, and it matters so much to him. So now here you look at a situation where he hasn't had success, and when the opportunity finally presented himself after watching Dylan, after the Arizona game where it wasn't awesome, but the BYU game where it was awesome, and having those highs and those lows and all those things. And now you're in the situation now where you're back up again and you don't know what's going to happen going forward. Man, that's a scary spot to be in. And so honestly, I haven't gotten the chance to have a lot of conversation with him. Every time I see him, I'm just like, love you, bro. Like, keep going. Love you, bro.
Well, he's a big fan of the podcast. He's going to see those words. He's going to feel great. He's going to feel great after talking to him. Okay, so here's the deal. We got the fall, right? This is like the arc. There's like an arc of any story, any hero story.
Yeah.
Kevin and I talk about the arc in all of our favorite sports movies. So the arc is, you start off high and then you fall and you struggle.
Yeah.
And you come back, Caleb, and you come back. And in 7 minutes and 17 seconds left in the fourth quarter of one of the most amazing sporting events I've ever experienced live or on TV. I don't care. It was the best thing in the world. You have it would, in my mind, might be the pinnacle of your OU career, at least in one play. Where now Kevin has a little different recollection. My recollection is as a fan in the stands, thinking, "Man, we just made a really good stop of Xavier Worthy on a kickoff," not even realizing that you have come up with the ball. Now, Kevin, am I right, Kevin? You're like, you knew this.
I saw it right away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I saw it right away. Yeah. And it went from bad to worse for me.
My question for you is, and we want to hear this, is that your best playing memory of the OU Texas game? Or are there others? And just talk us through before and I want to break down the game with you. That's coming. But just talk to us about the game. Is that your best memory? Are there other memories? I heard you were saying something on the radio last couple of days about getting kicked out of the stadium. I got to hear this story again. Dude, just go, bro. Go.
Yeah. So I will say my favorite OU Texas memory for sure. I mean, it was so clear to me. And you know, you have those moments, you get in tunnel vision, and you know, sometimes the movies will do it where they get the wide view and it just circles into kind of a little small view. And I think that's it's really a accurate description of what it feels like when you're running down on a field sometimes, because you got the face mask right here that limits the view everywhere else. And so you kind of have a little tunnel vision view right there. And so when I was running down on the kickoff, I hadn't noticed all week, and I had said, hey, Worthy, he does not tuck the ball. Like, he's super fast, but he's small, he's light, and he doesn't tuck the ball. And so I had been saying it all week on a defense perspective. But, man, they showed us the Superman clip. Roy Williams jumping, and I know Kevin.
Hey, Kevin, you were there, right? Kevin,
I was there. That was my first Red River Shootout. That was my very first one.
Hey, Caleb, tell that story again. Kevin loves that story, man.
Yeah,
anyway, go ahead.
I just need Kevin to be there this weekend as well, because we can use his luck every time.
I will say, I think I've been to 8 games. I think Texas has won maybe 3 of them.
We need you there, dog.
Yeah.
But Superman play where Roy Williams jumps over the pile and tips the ball to Teddy Glayman and scores. Well, what happens on the next play is that Roy Williams runs down on kickoff and blows the dude up. I mean, like, blows him up. And so they showed that on Monday, and I said, man, I'm gonna get some reps on defense, but I'm playing defensive end. I'm a linebacker playing defensive end right now. Like, it's not gonna be amazing. I ended up getting a couple TFLs actually in the game too, which was awesome, and it was cool to, you know, last OU Texas game playing in. But man, I think I can do something on this kickoff. Like I said on Monday, I said, if he ran down there after a big play and went and blew somebody up, I got to beat that. That's the Cali great. Like, that's the dude that I had when he was a Dallas Cowboy action figure. And I told him that when I met him, I said, you know, I had an action figure of you in my room. He said, thanks for making me feel old. And I was like, yeah, it is what it is. And so, you know, I see him and I'm like, how do I one up that? That's Roy Williams. Like, you know, that's my guy though. He's so cool and all this. And so I'm running down, and sure enough, I see he spins out of that first tackle from Brian Meade and the ball's right there. And I'm like, oh, I got it. Like, literally, as I'm running, I'm like, I got it. I got the ball. And I just rip it from him. And then he looks and he tries to jump on top. And so I try to just turn over to make it obvious, because immediately my head goes to the Oregon game back in, what was it, 2005 or something like that. And it was just like, no, I'm going to get up, make a big scene. I'm going to throw the ball around, hold it up in the air, and they're going to have to review this one.
You were selling it. You were selling it.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to go. And so then I'm running to the end zone. But then I'm super hyped. Like, I'm like, yo, that just happened. Like, it's tied ball game. We just tied it up, and now we're about to go score, and we're about to go win this thing. Like, that's where my mind is at that point. So I'm in the stands, like high-fiving people in the stands all the way down. And then we couldn't throw the horns down because, you know, Texas coaches are soft and they complain about that stuff. And so I'm going
we'll come back to
fans on the sideline and putting the horns down with them and all this and that, because I don't want to get a flag and all this. And so, man, it was awesome. But one of my favorites, and it was really special, and it was so perfect that it was like the Fresno kid, Xavier Worthy, gets the Fresno man, and it was like, you can go to Texas, you can go be an amazing wide receiver at the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to root for you all day long. But when it comes to OU Texas, like, the OU guy's always going to win. Like, it's what it is.
Kevin and I talk about this game all the time. This is a major discussion point. It was so good. We always come back to it. Xavier Worthy, Kevin, how good was he in that game?
I mean, he might have been the best player in the field. 9 catches, 261 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
I was we're all in the end zone, but I was like right on that end line on, he's running. That first play of the game, DTY, we're wondering if he's hurt or not. And there goes Xavier Worthy, like, yeah, dude's still hurt. And then he just comes at you. And when he ran, what'd you tell me he ran a 4.21 in the
4.21
in the combine? 4.21 in the combine. I'm like, not surprised. That guy was coming at me so fast. I'm not surprised. And then is he the guy that caught the pass after the takeaway to tie it?
Yeah.
He came right back out there after we scored and goes and ties it up again.
He's a freshman. Like, to make plays like that in that game as a true freshman.
So for you to make that play on him, though, you're right. It's just such sweet justice because he was so good in that game. I love it. Okay. Did you actually get kicked off the field, though, pregame? Can you please tell us this story?
Yeah, so that's 2019. That's the game where we got 9 sacks against Sam Ehlinger, Kevin. I just wanted you to know that game.
Well, trust me, I know that. And that game was a one-score game, but that game was never close. Texas should have fired their offensive line coach right after that game. I've never seen OU ran all these stunts with Grinch all year, and it's like we had never seen any of them.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Anyway,
hey, by the way, CeeDee Lamb was the best player in college football on that day. If nothing else, he's a great player. We love CeeDee Lamb and whatever he does with the Cowboys. But on that day, that dude was the best player in college football. He was unbelievable. Okay, anyway, take us back, 2019.
Yeah. And CD was, that was Jalen Hurts' year as well, doing the behind the back. You remember that stuff?
But real quick, you bring up Jalen Hurts. Speak to that, right? Because, listen, Jalen Hurts was, and I respect it, and he still is this. He has an aura of confidence, of imperturbability. In other words, he doesn't get shaken. He doesn't get rattled. And he was very confident, bordering on arrogant, going to that, I've been in big games. I've played in the Iron Bowl, blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. He got shook a little bit in that game. Just a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah. It was a little different. That game's a little different. I don't care what anybody says. And he was real confident going in. And in the game, we were like, where's all that? We were like, you were talking – because you have the meeting before the game. And so the night before, he was like, they're going to have to see me. Like, basically, that was what he said in our team meeting. He was like, they're going to have to see me. They're going to have to find out about Jay Hurt and stuff like that. And it was just like, we get in the game, and it was super close. And we were looking at him like, when we going to see you, dog? And I love Jay Hurts. He's awesome. But, man, he's focused. You think about Kyler's focus, and I didn't think it was possible to meet somebody that had more focus and just I'm here to ball, and that's it, like energy as Jalen Hurts. I mean, Kyler was one way, but Jalen Hurts was even another level. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, dude, you're really working out after the game? Like, come on, man, go home. Like, go get a drink. Like, hang with the homies. Like, come on. And so, but yeah, that game, which was awesome. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he had like 8 broken tackles in 2 plays, 2 of his touchdowns. He had like 8 broken tackles or something. And they had, what was y'all's, was it like Dunbar or what was the cornerback that was talking crazy before the game?
Man,
and then
I don't know what he was thinking. That's safety, BJ Foster, who said he better slide with Jalen Hurts.
Oh my goodness. It was so funny because he was
proceeded to have several
guys that tried to tackle CD, and he was the main one just standing there, and we were like, what you doing?
He had several missed tackles in that game after saying that Jalen Hurts better slide, including missed tackles on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
We all wish, even when he said that, we were like, I don't know if you want to be. We don't need to talk. Talk is not necessary before this game.
Right.
Just go out and make it happen. I want to ask you this,
talk for a whole year after.
Yeah, you got a whole year of bragging rights, and really bragging rights for life, right? Based on big plays that you make.
Right.
On the flip side, though, I know you only went through this one time, but what's it like to lose this game?
Yeah, and we lost on what, the last minute field goal?
The loudest I've ever heard that stadium. Yeah. That because both sides were going insane. The loudest I've ever heard that stadium.
Yeah, and that was Kyler's year, and that was an exciting game. It was like 48-48 or something, kicked field goal win. And we knew we were the better team at that point, but we made so many mistakes, and it was just so embarrassing. Like, it was just, all the play calls. We had busted so many defensive plays. I remember I was playing inside linebacker that game. I had like 3 busts or something. And I was like, I'm just making dumb mistakes. It was like we were so emotionally invested in that game that we We didn't just do our job, which that's the biggest thing in OU Texas as a player is, yeah, there's all the emotion, the smack talk and all that. Can you ignore all of it and go in there and actually do your job? And then the team that does that better usually is the team that wins. It's like the team that has a good run but gets up and pushes the dude and gets a 15-yard penalty. Like, that's the team where they're going to lose in the end of the game. It's like, who's the most disciplined in that emotional environment? And I don't know. This year I'm looking and y'all got 49 penalties. So I'm just thinking, just throwing that out there.
Caleb, let's talk about this year, right? Let's talk about the version that is 2024. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, in one of the most disrespectful moves I've ever seen as an OU fan, a 4-1 Oklahoma team ranked in the top 25 is a 14.5-point dog to Texas. Listen, and this includes what happened this weekend, right? This includes the narrative that can occur in college football every week. Yeah. And they're putting Oklahoma in a 14.5-point dog. Look, I get we've had some issues offensively. Kevin knows this. I'm as hard on us as every other OU fan and guy with a computer. I mean, that's not a surprise. But at the same time, there is something different about this game that doesn't make that spread ever really mean anything, does it?
Ever. And, you know, the last time that there was a number one team in this game, it was actually OU, and OU lost. And it goes to show that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, we were ranked ahead of Texas every single year that we played them, lost 1, won 6. But every time we won, it was within a touchdown. Like, it was never just a blowout game. Y'all had that 49-0. We didn't play with a quarterback. And it's like that makes sense. So anytime you got a quarterback in this game and you have a defense that can show up, it's going to be a tight game. You know,
real quick. I'm going to stop you right there because that's the key point. That's what I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
If we have a quarterback, we talked about one of the most focused, experienced quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
Who did play in ginormous games before. He's gone on to play in Super Bowls where he might have been the best player on the field in that loss, in that Super Bowl game. We talked about it. We joked about it a little bit. He got a little rattled, a little welcome to the Cotton Bowl type situation. And that's Jalen Hurts. Yeah. How is our boy Hawkins going to react, and what do you anticipate from him this Saturday?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts and Mike Hawkins are similar in that Jalen Hurts' dad was his high school football coach, and Mike Hawkins Sr. played at the University of Oklahoma in the Marine League and then the NFL. And so Mike Hawkins has been trained since he was about 4 years old for a moment like this. And that's why when you're playing Auburn and you're losing 16-20 or whatever score was, I'm forgetting, and you don't flinch. You just keep going. And, you know, he didn't smile until the game was over. And
23-10. We were down 23-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. 21-10.
21-10. You're right. 21-10 in the fourth quarter. Yep.
And he just doesn't flinch because he's so locked in. I mean, he's like he's the guy that's been trained for this for so long. And Jalen Hurts was like that way too. But the difference between them is that Mike Hawkins is going to go out there and be like, man, I've been in this situation. I've done this. Mike Hawkins is going to go out there and be like, man, this is a serious game, and this is a really important game. I mean, I'm from Texas. I care about this, and I'm locked in. And Mike Hawkins is somebody that has been there, is so much more mature than his age, and he respects the game. You see so many times when guys get cocky, when they get arrogant, they're not respecting the game at that moment. And like I talk so much mess on Texas and all that, and I love having fun. But I knew every single time we went into this game, it was going to be a dogfight for a full 60 minutes. Like it didn't matter who was ranked, what was going on. Like it was going to be a dogfight. And so that's the reality that you got to get into for this weekend. And Mike Hawkins has that mentality. It's not going to be a surprise for him when it's hard. It's not going to be a surprise for him if we go down some points. Like he's just going to keep pushing, keep doing this job. And that's what I think is so special about him in the situation he's in, where he's younger, and he's confident in this play because he's had to earn it over a 5-star Jackson Arnold, but he's not cocky at all in this situation.
Well, I think the biggest thing is these monumental momentum shifts that occur in this game, right? I think we've seen multiple times over the year. We were talking about 2018, right? Texas gets up, what was it, 45-24? And then just like that, it's a tie game. Kyler Murray goes nuts. Same thing in, was it 2017, John? Texas down 20-0. Ellinger somehow brings them back. Next thing you know, Texas is leading the game in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I think it'll be fascinating to see, how do you deal with that? The momentum shifts going back and forth so quickly.
Yeah, somebody has to make a play. It just is what it is. In those moments, it's like, who's going to be the guy to make the play? And that was always my mentality going in. Like I tried to get strips, and every time I played the game, because momentum's so big. And then you have complementary football. And so if you have momentum plus complementary football, that's how you get 14-0 real quick, or 28-7 so fast in that 2021 game. Like the complementary football, they blocked a punt. They scored on their first play. Then they block a punt. Then they score again. And then it's 14-0. And then they stop us. And then they score again. And it's 21-0. And it's just like, oh my God, like what is happening? And it's just that complementary football, but it takes a big play. Like that very first play for Xavier Worthy was catch a screen. Don't just catch a screen and score. That's a huge play. I mean, 70 yards of rushing or receiving and yards after the catch. Like he went and did that. And then you go in and I get a strip on him, and it's like game-changing play. Well, then what happened before those two plays? Well, we score a long touchdown, Marvin Mims. Then Spencer Rattler goes in, gets a 2-point conversion. I strip the ball. Then Kenny Brooks scores the next play. It's just like momentum and complementary football. It's so dangerous. I mean, that's offense to special teams, back to offense right away. You didn't even have defense on the field. And there's just so many situations like it. But it takes somebody to make that big play. And that's all. Every play in OU Texas feels like a big play. If it's a 15-yard plus on offense, or if it's an interception or a TFL, it all matters so much in that game because the emotions are so high.
Caleb, we're getting close to that time where we're going to wrap this bad boy up. So we've got to get your thoughts on the game. Yeah. Break it down for us. What you think is going to happen. Kev, just so you know, there's a tradition on the Boomer Bevo podcast going way back before Kevin and I even hosted a podcast. We don't pick a score. We might pick a score or whatever, but for him and I, there's no spread. There's no nothing. It's win or lose. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And it's a Coke and a candy bar bet. So, I've got Oklahoma. He's got Texas. That's all we got to know. But we got to know who you've got. We've got to know how it's going to look. Yeah. Does OU have enough offense to beat Texas? Is our defense as good as advertised against probably the best offense we've played, especially now after having seen Tennessee? And who's going to come out on top on October 12th, 2024 in Dallas, Texas?
Yeah, I got you. So obviously Oklahoma's going to win. The reality of how this is going to happen is, did you notice last week we finally ran the ball 2 weeks ago against Auburn? We finally ran the ball. Now there's QB run with that, but we finally have guys lined up blocking the guys that they're supposed to block. And we build on that momentum on offense. I don't care who you're playing, what team it is in the country. If you have a dual threat quarterback, you can ball. Well, Quinn Ewers is not a dual threat quarterback. Quinn Ewers is a guy that's coming back in, has had injury, has had beat up, and now has a lot of pressure because the guy behind him balled out. His coach tried to help him and say, whenever he gets back, he's going to be our guy. But he has that in the back of his mind that he's got somebody behind him who is a dual threat quarterback, which is a better version of a quarterback in this world, in this game today. And any mistake I make, they're going to be looking to put that guy back in. And so all the pressure's on Quinn Ewers right now. He's the guy that's going to sit there. And have you seen our pass rush? I'm not saying we're going to have 9 sacks again. I said last night, I'm going to say it again. I believe we have 5 sacks, 2 turnovers on defense. This is not just a jokey defense. We played our best game against Tennessee. We got to play our best game against Texas on defense and do the things that we did before. And our offense just has to have those big plays that they were capable of against Auburn and that they're capable of going into this weekend. I mean, the defense at Texas has always been good. You got a young guy in Anthony Hill, freshman guy that's been balling, playing lights out at linebacker, a guy that we recruited and really wanted as well, and a guy that's going to be one of their main points on pass rushing and getting run stops, but he's young. and you ain't been in that atmosphere yet. And I don't care who you are. Same with Mike Hawkins. I don't care who you are. You got to have that right mindset. Mike Hawkins has that mindset, and I'm excited to see when Quinn Ewers throws that first interception. I'm excited to see and hear the Texas fans cheering, "We want Archie." And see what happens at that point. So that's how we win. We get in their head. They get in their own heads. Really, Texas is capable of doing that. We've seen that happen before with all the smack talking things. But OU wins this weekend, and it's going to be a close battle, maybe a couple overtimes, but 5 sacks, 2 turnovers, and we'll get it done.
Caleb, man, listen, we appreciate you so much coming on. This has been great. This is exactly what we need, OU Texas week. A little bit of preaching and a little bit of hate. It feels good, man. Right. I feel like I've been to church, as well as, we got to pick on Kevin for a while. So, I mean, I don't know what else I need.
It's okay, man. We're gonna show up on Saturday. If we give up 5 sacks, I'll be very disappointed about it. As good as our offensive line is, at least I think it is. All due respect to the OU defense. I've been talking your defense up all season.
Hey, Kevin, I say we end it right here. I don't know that it's going to get any better than this. Caleb, have a great week. Enjoy the game. Kevin, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow when we have another special guest coming on. To all the Sooner fans out there and Longhorn fans out there, thank you for listening. Boomer.
Sooner, Texas sucks. There
Welcome.